You are listening to all of it on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. It wouldn't be a proper book day here on All of It without spotlighting our Get Lit book club selection. This month, we are reading the novel Lake Effect by Cynthia Sweeney. The novel tells the story of how one affair changes the course of two families forever. We begin the novel with Nina Larkin, who is living in Rochester in New York in 1977. She's bored in her marriage and unsatisfied in the bedroom. When a friend gives her a copy of the book The Joy of Sex, Nina experiences something that opens her up. She begins to have an affair with her neighbor, a man named Finn. But their new relationship has lasting consequences for their children. Nina's daughters, Bridie and Clara, and Finn's kids, Dune and Fern. Years later, we meet Clara as a food stylist in New York City, and as a family wedding approaches, Clara grapples with the continued effects from her mother's decision. New Yorkers can borrow an e-copy of the novel right now, thanks to our great partners at the New York Public Library. Plus, you can snag your free tickets to our Get Lit event on Monday, April 27th. Head to wnyc.org/getlit for more information. But first, joining me now for a little preview to get you excited about Lake Effect is author Cynthia Sweeney. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Allison. I'm so thrilled to be here. What a terrific episode.
What was the first seed of the idea for this novel?
It's hard for me to remember, and I sort of backed into this book a little bit in a way that I haven't in the other two. I think I just really wanted to set a book in my hometown, and I was immediately feeling like that should be the 1970s, probably because that was the last time I lived full time in my hometown when I was a senior in high school. And so I just started thinking about what, like in my teen and formative years, what were some of the things that really preoccupied me? And the social tumult in my little Catholic world when parents started to divorce was a huge part of that.
Yeah, that's a big part of the book. It's funny because I read the book and now I'm listening to it. It's narrated by Marin Ireland, which is
Oh, she's
great.
so good.
She's
She's
so,
so good.
and you know what? And the divorce part of the book comes through a little bit more in the audio book. What did
Oh,
you,
interesting.
it is interesting. What did you want to explore about divorce during the 70s?
Well, I think as a young person, when people in, my parents' friends or the friends of my parents started to get divorced, it felt very threatening to me, and I was very judgmental about it. And then, of course, as I started to get, as I aged and matured a little bit and thought about how terrible it would be to have just made a bad decision when you were probably 22 in the 50s
Mm.
and to have to live with that for the rest of your life, but getting out of it, choosing love for yourself might mean really hurting the people you love. And that just felt like such a deep, rich vein to go into.
You begin with a dinner party to celebrate a birthday.
Hmm.
What does a dinner party tell us about our main characters here?
Oh, so much. I mean, I love dinner party scenes in novels. They're really hard to write because you sort of have to juggle a bigger cast of characters than is ideal for a scene. But the way people eat, the way they approach for food, the way they act in a group conversation, who is dominating the conversation, who's saying nothing. The dynamics of couples are can sometimes be achingly clear in that kind of social situation. So that again just felt like a good way for me to say a little bit about a group of characters that we were going to be spending a lot of time with.
My guests are April Get Lit with All of It book club author Cynthia Sweeney. We're spending the month reading her novel Lake Effect about how one woman's affair changes the course of her family forever. To find out how to borrow your e-copy and to grab your tickets to the April 27th Get Lit event, head to wnyc.org/getlit. When we first meet Nina, what's going on in her life? How is she feeling about her marriage?
I think that Nina, when we meet her, has sort of been on autopilot in her marriage and has been preoccupied, as many people are with small children, with just her family life. And what's happening at the moment that we meet her is she's starting to look down the road and understand that these girls are going to be gone soon. And it's going to be her and Sam left. And what do they have that is going to be enough? And I think she's a little troubled by
Yeah.
by the answer, by what she and her gut knows the answer is.
Well, we would love to have you read a little bit from the book. Would
I would
you?
love to,
That would be
yes.
great.
I'm going to read the prologue, so it's pretty self-explanatory. Bess Pfeiffer didn't mean to start anything when she walked into Honey Finnegan's house with 7 copies of The Joy of Sex. She thought it would be fun. Their group had been meeting for years, and even though it started as something that kind of sort of resembled the consciousness raising groups they'd been reading about, the group had predictably become a watered down suburban version of consciousness raising. The wives and mothers of Cambridge Road weren't talking politics or sex or activism or civil rights, not even a light sugar-coated feminism. They were mostly trying to help each other as their children climbed the slippery shoals of adolescence to the sebum-soaked years of puberty. They discussed teachers and curfews and their concerns about cigarettes and liquor and peer pressure. That their kids, some of them only yards away from where they met, were already smoking pot and bringing grape jelly jars refilled with Smirnoff to the massive treehouse in the Tannenbaums' backyard would not have occurred to any of the mothers in the room, except for Bess, who was a high school nurse and trusted confidant of some of the older teens, especially the girls, who couldn't talk to their parents about sex or, God forbid, in this neighborhood of Catholics, birth control. The women chatted about husbands and cooking and which families were not obeying the local leash laws, and should their bowling league move from Wednesdays to Tuesdays, and why were Father John's sermons so excruciatingly boring, and did they still need to abstain from meat on Fridays? So when Bess saw the book on display while browsing at Sibley, she thought, why not?
That was Cynthia Dupree Sweeney reading from Lake Effect, our choice for Get Lit. What was it about the joy of sex that upends things?
I mean, I think that a lot of things were happening in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
and the culture at large that crept into our houses, and whether it was the joy of sex or our bodies ourselves or everything you wanted to know about sex, or whether it was a movie or just things going on in the neighborhood or on television that made people think, how do I compare to this? Now, no one should be comparing themselves to the joy of sex. But if you've never seen a book like that, you might.
Yeah.
And so everyone just starts to think like, is this what we're supposed to be doing? And then, of course, it makes its way into the hands of some of the kids. And it was just a fun device for me to play with, and showing how something from the outside can really upend the inside of a family unit.
The story begins with Nina, but it certainly expands to include her 2 daughters as well as the children of the man she's having the affair with. When did you know you wanted the story to be as much about the children as the parents?
From the very, very start. I thought that, of course, it's interesting to write a book about people who are unhappy in their marriage and what they do to resolve it. But I was really interested in moving forward in time and seeing how those decisions affected the extended family decades on. And I also knew that I really wanted to write about a mother-daughter relationship that was in distress.
Who came to you the easiest of the 4 kids?
Clara. I love writing teenage girls. I am exactly Clara's age. And so it wasn't easy, but it was much easier for me to put myself back in 1977 when I was 17 years old. And I just really enjoyed her. I enjoyed how she's a much braver, sort of sarcastic, unkind person than I am. And so it's a fun place to live in temporarily when there will be no real life consequences.
How did you come to write Dune?
Dune, Dune's interesting. I originally had 2 brothers in that family,
Oh,
and I felt
interesting.
like they were kind of bumping into each other a little bit. And so I collapsed them into one character. And when I did that, everything, I felt like I was really on solid ground. And Dune, I just thought of as someone who, he's the son of this very dynamic, gregarious leader in town. and really is lost. And so that was sort of where I pinned him. Like, how do you define yourself when you're living in the shadow of a super successful, super big personality, someone who makes things happen, who makes decisions pretty much without a second thought? And that's like a heavy load to carry your entire childhood when it comes to the point in life when you have to see your parents as separate humans, as flawed humans, and then figure out who you are.
The book moves forward in time, and we meet Clara as a grown-up, and she's a food stylist in New York
Mhm.
City. Why did you want her to have that job?
I wanted food to sort of be a battleground between her and her
Yep.
mom, Nina. And I just thought it was apt that Clara would still want to be involved with food somehow, but it wouldn't be nourishing people. It would just be making the food look good for a brief moment. And also I was just really curious about food styling. And so that's always a good thing to do when you're writing a book. If you are pick something to write about that you have a genuine curiosity about, that writing is going to be ever so slightly easier.
So what kind of research did you do into food styling?
I found a food stylist online, and her name is Joy, and I named a character in the book after her. And she talked to me for a really long time on the phone. And it was wonderful because she had done food styling in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and she pointed me to some books about food styling so I could make sure that everything was, very period specific.
We like to ask our authors to share with us something you'd like readers to spend a little extra time noticing, whether it's an Easter egg or just something you're really proud of.
Well, I'm really proud of the last 75 pages of the book.
Uh-huh.
I'm really proud of the end of the book. And yeah, I think I'll just leave it there. I really had to dig a little deeper in myself than I have in previous books to write that ending. And yeah, I'm proud of it.
My guest has been our April Get Lit with All of It author Cynthia Dupree Sweeney. To borrow your e-copy, thanks to our partners at the New York Public Library, you can do that by going to wnyc.org/getlit and grab your free tickets to our April 27th event to discuss Lake Effect. Thank you so much, Cynthia. We'll see you in a few weeks.
I can't wait. Thank you, Allison.
There's more Book Day on the way coming up. Journalist Patrick Radden Keefe, his new book digs into the mysterious death of a London teenager who had been lying for years about his identity and pursuing the trust of dangerous criminals. He joins me to discuss London Falling. It's out today. That's coming up after the news.